IST 2016. This is interviews, music reviews, and more. This is The Hodder Show.
What is up, everybody? We have one audio here today on episode 311 of The Hodder Show. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast. I've got a really fun episode for you here today. I try to do every single week right here on The Hodder Show. I have the distinct pleasure of sitting down for the very first time in the history of The Hodder Show with a writer. It's not just any writer. I am sitting down with Mark Towse, who you may know from some of his work on podcasts like The Grey Rooms and No Sleep podcast, Dread Machine, as well as his novellas Nana and Hope Wharf, as well as tons of different short stories. If you enjoy horror short stories and things of that nature, you've probably actually seen his work before. He is a fantastic writer, very talented. I love his stuff, and it was so much fun getting to sit down with him and pick his brain about how he goes about writing, his character building, his world building, how he got started with writing. Just a really fun, interesting story, and I think he has actually a really inspirational story for people, that it's never really too late to go after something that you want to. So I'm really excited about this episode. Can't wait for you guys to hear it. Before we jump in, I want to quickly thank everybody for their support on last week's episode of the show, where I debuted a brand new segment, Hodder's Hits and Misses, with my man Chris from Dragged. That was a lot of fun. Limp Bizkit still sucks. It was a great record. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a hit. Chris thought it was a hit. But we had some mixed reviews on the hit or miss. But overall, it was a hit. The Hodder Show universe declared. So, shouts to Limp Bizkit for making a great record, and shouts to everybody who supported that episode. Something you're definitely going to see again in the future. But right now, we're going to jump in to my chat with Mark Towse, horror fiction writer. Let's get into it. You guys have heard his stories on podcasts such as the No Sleep podcast, Dread Machine, my favorite podcast, The Grey Rooms, and countless others. You've seen his work in Flash Fiction magazine, among countless others. His first collection, Face Music, is available now, and also his two brand new novellas, Nana and Hope Wharf, are available right now. We have so much ground to cover. I'm so excited. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on to the show, horror fiction writer Mark Towse. Mark, how are you, sir?
Hey, TJ, I am Fandabidozi. Thank you very much for having me on the show. Much appreciated. It's
an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you making this work for me. The time difference caused a little bit of an issue for us earlier. But
I've had a few teething issues before. But no, I got through a whole one of these once, and the poor interviewee didn't press record, or there was something happened. So we basically spent an hour talking. We had to do it all over again. And I had to get the same sort of enthusiasm going. So that took gallons and gallons of coffee. So it's all good. It's all good. It's the only way is up, right? So
exactly. Yeah. Oh, I've been there, man. Like, something can happen, or especially when you're using something like Zoom and you're relying on it to, work properly. I just said to you before we started, like, I always want to make sure everything's rocking and rolling. And
I can see the little red recorder symbol. I think we're good. I think we're all right. We're on fire.
Yes, the Zoom lady always speaks to us. She's like a higher power. It's like recording in progress. It's like, okay,
exactly.
We're
like a mother figure, like a nana figure.
Like a nana. Exactly.
We'll talk about that later. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things I want to talk to you about. It's a pleasure to have you on here, because I am such a fan of your work, and I haven't even dove into all of your work yet. And that's kind of the exciting thing for me, is like I discovered your work on the Grey Rooms podcast, which is something I definitely want to make sure we talk about. And it's just been like this fun journey the last, basically year, I guess, really year and a bit of just seeking your stuff out and finding it on different podcasts, and then finding that, you've been in these magazines, and you've done this and you've done that. And every time I turn around, it's like there's almost something new that you've done. And I know you've written tons of short stories, and you're working on new novellas. Obviously, we're going to talk about that a little later. Yeah. But I'm really curious, what kind of got the ball rolling on this whole horror writing, getting into horror? Did it start early for you?
I'll tell you what it was, TJ. It was tedium, mate. It was tedium. It was boredom more than anything else that got me into writing horror. Because I was, I did a degree in maths, like back at uni, and I just followed the path that I thought, that I should be following, the safe path. And 30 years later, I still working in sales, and I needed something else. I was drinking a bottle of wine every night, which isn't a good place to be. And I just, it was, for me, it was escapism. It was sure. Well-timed therapy, to be honest with you. It came just at the right time. And I remember, back at school, my English teacher used to say, you could do really well. If you really focused, got your head down, you could do really well. But I was a bit lazy then. I was, I liked what I liked, and I didn't want people telling me what I should be doing. So, but then it's always been at the back of my head. And, my wife, Steph, knew that there was something missing. So she said, give it a try. Why don't you give it a shot? You've got nothing to lose. And I was thinking, well, I'm sort of mid-40s now. I was probably maybe left it a bit too late. But then I just sat down. I thought, no, screw it. I'm going to give it a shot. So I wrote a little flash fiction piece called Hugh's Friend. I didn't think anything of it, sent it to a magazine, and it sold for $75, which might as well have been a bloody, gold bullion, to be honest with you. I was over the moon. I wet myself with delight. And I thought, hey, this is pretty good, this lark, isn't it? So, that's where it started. And, you haven't seen any novellas from me because I've been focused purely on doing the short stories, getting them out in anthologies, getting them out in journals, getting them out in podcasts. The idea being just to help me get to a stage where I was comfortable in approaching lengthier pieces. I didn't want to go in there like all guns blazing and I've got a book. I've never written anything before in my life, but here you go, take this and like it. I wanted to really try and master the storytelling process, and short stories allow you to do that. You've got a very short amount of time to grab the reader's attention, a very short amount of time to develop relationships with characters, and it's a really good platform to sharpen the skill set. And I was solely writing for short stories for 2.5 years before I wrote my first novella. So that was 120 under the belt. Oh, wow. before I thought, yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go longer. And that's when I started on the novellas.
That's awesome. You had mentioned how it kind of came at a time that was just perfect for you. I think that your story is really cool because, there's a lot of people who may have that, oh, what if I had done this? Or, oh, I wish I had tried doing this in life. And that's something that I always preach a lot to people. Like, you just got to go for it. And it's cool that you are living proof that you can do something at any point in your life, and next thing you know, it's like this whole other chapter that you're literally, like I said, the first story that you wrote, that first short story, it sold. Like, how many people can say that, really? And it was nuts.
I knew it was a good story, but I mean, technically it wasn't written very well. So I was relying purely on the sort of sucker punch of the story. And I look back on some of the older work now and cringe, but you've got to go through that process. You can't just sit down and write a bloody masterpiece after not doing anything creative for 30 years. So you've really got to work at it. I mean, like anything in life, you just got to work at it. But if you're passionate about it, if you love something you do, look, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I wish I, could rewind 30 years and go back, but all I've got is where I am now and, tomorrow. So I'll just focus on, doing the best work I can, but I'm loving it. This is a new lease of life for me, and I'm absolutely loving it. I can't imagine life without it now. I'm totally addicted to it. It's probably the worst drug. Well, I say the worst drug. It's not the worst drug in the world, is it? That's exaggerating, but it is a drug.
I know what you're saying.
It's in my system. It's in my veins. I could never live without it now. I mean, look, for example, I'm trying to give myself the weekend off. It's Thursday. I'm already thinking, can I do this? Because every minute of every hour I get spare time, I'm writing or thinking about stories, and I'm trying to give myself, because I just feel a bit burnt out with the day job and everything. So I just need some time. But I'm already thinking, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can go 4 days without writing. It's weird. It gets you like that. It gets hold of you. It doesn't let go.
It's having that creative outlet, right? Like, it's something that a lot of people who have that kind of, I say myself, like, it's almost like it's a blessing and a curse being someone who has that creative energy inside. Like, sometimes you need to just get it out. And that can be a wonderful thing, but also it's like, oh, I'm going to take some time off. And it's like, you're 2 days in going, can I really do this? Like, you know,
I know, it's nuts. It's like, I don't know that because I think it makes sense out of it, but the bread is a muscle, and we work it, and if we're working it all the time, and it's, you know, and then we try and say to it, oh, we're going to take some time off now, but the brain doesn't stop working. It's always like, especially when it's been used to, you know, creating these fantastical worlds, it's not just going to stop and think, okay, yeah, you could just chill out now, you know, just have a beer, relax, don't think about anything. It doesn't work like that, you know. It's always working, and yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen this weekend. I was planning on going hiking. Just to the top of a mountain, maybe just to get away from it, just so just to give my mind a bit of a rest, so I can regenerate, so to speak. It's a funny old game.
You're going to be at the top of the mountain, and you're going to be like, oh, this is beautiful, and you're going to be standing, and all of a sudden you're going to be like, uh-oh. And you're going to have to sit down. And
I know. That's right.
You're going to be doing voice memos of all these ideas and stuff.
I'll be scratching some notes in the rock or in the stone or something, you know. It's just like, but yeah, you're absolutely right. It's getting to that stage where because I don't sleep very well either. I mean, I'm an insomniac, and I just switching off for me is just really bloody hard. I don't know if you find the same, but I do not sleep well.
Oh, for sure. I totally, like, I mean, I shouldn't say I don't sleep well. That's not fair to say, but I'm definitely someone where if I have an idea or I have something I need to get out, it doesn't matter how hard I try. I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll just be like, oh, what about this? And I'll write, as long as I write it down, I find I'm okay. But there are times where I need to get up and come sit in my little corner of the world here and record something or write something down or whatever. For sure. I get that.
No, it's like I'll wake up 3 times a night and just send myself an email. Like, just, you know, I'm just like squinting in the phone. I can hardly see. I'm just typing, and I wake up the next day and think, what the friggin' hell is this? What about? It's weird, yeah.
All messed up spelling and everything. It's like, what was I trying to say? I can't read this.
Hell? Did I even write this? What the hell?
Who was this?
Someone under the bed, like grabbing my phone and writing it when I'm asleep. Some kind of strange, like, you know, spiritual language or something, but.
That's like a whole other thing.
It is. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, something you had mentioned, just to go back for a second, as far as with having, you said that, you know, it came at a time in your life where you really needed maybe that creative outlet. Do you find that, I feel that the horror genre, a lot of times it can be seen as, much like different types of music, a very negative thing, because it's so violent. And some of it anyway, it's like, it's so, when a lot of people, when you say you like horror, they think, like Friday the 13th and, you know,
that's the first reaction I generally get. Absolutely. When I'd say I write horror, they sort of stand back. But
it's like, wait,
what? The eyes go wide, and I'm thinking I need to get away from this person very quickly. But it's great. They say if you don't want to talk to somebody, like if you're at a bar, you don't want to talk to somebody, telling me write horror, that'll get rid of them pretty quick. You get all the peanuts to yourself. It's great.
I write horror. I have this novella called Nanny. You should really check it out. It's like,
that's right. Yeah.
Okay. But with horror too, like it's such a beautiful thing in a way, because it can be anything you want. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. It can be psychological. It can be a thriller type thing. It can be obviously the supernatural, paranormal type thing. Do you find that having the kind of outlet you do as far as with horror, and obviously specifically the way that you write, which obviously we're going to get into, do you find that helps kind of with, you know, like, again, like you had mentioned, there was that time in your life where, you know, maybe you needed to come along. Do you find it helps with that kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of getting the, you know, the darkness out a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I write the bile out of me. That's generally what I try and do. And it is, you feel it. It's like a dark cloud. And the way I used to get rid of it before was I used to run everywhere, man. I used to I was like 67 kilos. I was like a stick. Wow. You know, I just used to run. And I was doing marathons and stuff. And, you know, and that was my escape. And then I did my legging and I thought, well, I can't run anymore. So, you know, I think that was part of it. Now what do I do to escape the dark cloud, you know? That sounds really, you know, somber, doesn't it? But I think we all have our dark clouds sometimes that we need to get away from. And I just, it seems an odd choice, horror. But yeah, horror can be a love story. Horror can be a mystery. It can be thriller. It can be comedy. There's no limitations to it. And I think that's what really attracts me to it. I've written sci-fi, love stories. Generally, some people die in it, I suppose. But
still a love story.
Still a love story. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm just drawn to it. I don't know why, but I think you're right. I think it is like it is a release of the darkness, so to speak, and there are no limitations. And what you're doing when you're writing, to some extent, is getting your personality into that story. And I think most writers will agree that they can create and fabricate these characters, fabricate the situations, but ultimately some aspect of their personality will feed through to the characters. So I think it's just a really, really good therapy session. Yeah, for sure. I never come out of writing something. I feel exhausted sometimes, but I never feel bad coming out of it. I always feel great and invigorated.
For sure. And that's a wonderful thing, right? I'm glad that you have that. Like a lot of people, don't have that creative outlet where they might need to do other things, like you had mentioned, like running and things like that. And that's a wonderful thing too, to have that type of an outlet, a physical outlet, I guess. But for people like us who need that creative outlet to, even if that darkness, so to speak, is just, I had a really long day, someone at work ticked me off. Well, you know what? I'm going to write a story about, on a character loosely based on this person.
Yeah, there's been a couple of good ones on middle management in there for sure. Oh, they're juicy, they are. Yeah, but you're right, absolutely. But you can write according to situations, scenery, whatever floats your boat. Sometimes you don't have to have an ending, you just have to have an idea, and that's where these stories can stem from. And then you just let that personality flow, and before you know it, you've got a story. You're at an ending. And I've always been a pantser that I love to write off the cuff without an ending in mind. I love that so much. And if I was, again, a lot of writers will disagree that they like that process. They like having that structure, probably in the same way that they like having that structure timetable in their life as well. So,
sure.
But I just prefer to live it a bit more, by the seat of the pants, so to speak.
I think that's something that draws me so much to your work is, number one, I mean, for me, it's your character building. And I know so many people have complimented that for you, and I know they've brought it up a ton, but for me, if you can make me care deeply in one way or another about the character, or make me kind of hate a character, and then at the end of it, it's like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. Or as you go through the story, you think, oh, this is going to happen, or it's going to end this way. And then it just completely comes out of left field. It's like, whoa, like, how did he do that? It's so interesting to hear that that's kind of how you write. It's like, you don't really know how it's going to end either as you're doing
No,
it.
I don't. And that's the good thing about it. And that's what makes it exciting for me as well. That's why I have a good time. That's why I sit at the keyboard and laughing my head off sometimes, because I don't have a clue. And it's great. It's like, it's got to be rational. There's got to be sort of rational. And that's why, you establish a relationship with the character, and they've got to behave in a rational way. Otherwise it's just silly. But I love that. I love that aspect as well. And that's why I try and keep some distance from the characters without getting too attached to them, because I know, there's a good possibility they're going to come a cropper at some point, So from that point of view, I just like to, I'm quite happy for the reader to establish that relationship, but I don't have, rely on them, because I don't want to protect them. I just want to, I'm always just keen on putting my characters through the ringer, and just seeing what happens.
Makes it more interesting, and not having too much attachment to a character, I think, is something that really lends itself so well to your work, right? Like, you're feeling like throughout the story, like something could happen at any moment, but like maybe you don't think it's going to happen quite the way that it does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't want the character to think that they know what's going to happen either. I like them to, I like to take the floor away, and it's good because if you have a set structure in mind, then I think it just makes it too transparent. But if you just sort of like twisting and turning, all the way, then the characters. There's so many paths. The character, the reader doesn't know which one you're going to end up taking, and I just love that aspect of writing, and I love the thought of this is a great premise. It's a great idea, great characters. Now let's just throw it all in the mix and let's just see where it goes. Let's just see what happens.
Definitely. So the one thing too with that I'd love to know about with your character building, obviously, like you had mentioned, you know, there might be some stuff about middle management or something. And do you ever base characters on someone you know loosely, or is it like you like to completely separate the two?
No, I do. There are quite a few characters that I've made into the stories. There's one called Happy Returns, and it's about this woman that owns this sort of retro gaming shop. And there's this bloke, he's been after this. It's a really silly premise, but this bloke has been after this old sort of Atari game for age, and he can't get it anywhere, but she's got a copy. So she's the only thing that stands between him and getting his hands on this magical cartridge. And she's overly fond. Let's put it that way. She's overly fond, which basically means she's very vivacious, very bubbly, but she's also got dark secrets. So it's this sort of like this challenge of this man trying just to get his hands on this, but she's stopping him. You know, she's stopping him. She loves him. She doesn't want the relationship to end, so she wants him to keep coming back in. She wants to establish the relationship. So it's sort of like borderline sort of Kathy Bates kind of territory, but but it is, and you know that was based on, I won't say where, but I do visit a lot of clients. It's I can't really say it just in case, but it's never going to get out there. But this character is just perfect. You know, she's just the kind of person that you have to go and see because she's a client, but you really don't want to, and you know you're going to come out of there feeling like you need to like have a bath and a lie down afterwards.
It's almost draining.
Because it's traumatic, but it is. It's like a roller coaster. It's like you never know what you're going to get from one day to the next. She can be moody. She can be overly fun. She can be like, you know, give it hugs and stuff. And it's just, I just like that aspect of, you know, bringing that kind of guardian, you know, into that sort of situation. Really, yeah.
It's super interesting. Like just to think about, you know, the fact that when you meet somebody, you can have this inspiration right away where it's like, you need to be a character in a story, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But talking about character building and that, one thing I've noticed with your work on top of the excellent character building and the world building, which is something that I think a lot of people really take for granted, something I've noticed that you do. And I find that like you don't always do it, but when you do, it really immerses me more as a reader, because it's something I've always really caught on to in a scary situation, quote unquote, is you'll talk about smells and things like that, where you'll really describe the scene as to what's going on. And I really feel like it just kind of takes things to the next level. Is that something that you kind of consciously do, or is that just kind of a happy accident?
No, I definitely do that a lot. Yeah, because it's like I just adds another dimension to things in the same way that I incorporate humor into things as well. Yes. It's just because I want to bring a different dimension in there as well, and it's something that a lot of people don't do. But I mean, I'm just a hack, but these are some of the things that I love doing. In terms of the smell, I just like to create that essence that, you know, you can smell the sort of the background, you can smell, you know, the water on the pavement, you can smell, you know, the sort of street food and that kind of thing. So I think it just helps the immersion process a little bit more. And it's something that is missed out on, I think. I don't think a big enough deal is made out of that, because, you know, you don't have to see something to be able to smell it. And, you know, so sometimes the smell and the essence of scent is the first thing you get. And again, humor again is just another dimension that I like to add, because it just creates that other, you know, dynamic in the relationship where, you know, we all like to laugh, we all like to smile. That's what we live for. I mean, we don't live to be bloody miserable. We want to have a laugh, and we want to be able to, you know, have a bit of a joke around and stuff. So I think that aspect of it and extending that to the reader is kind of useful as well. Yeah. So smells and humor are something that you'll probably, again, these are all lessons I've learned in the 3 years, TJ. I mean, this is, you know, hard graft. I mean, you know, it's, you get to a point and you realize, oh, repeated words, oh, I missed an opportunity there, especially when you hear it on podcasts, because it as well as highlighting the good stuff, it does highlight the flaws as well. And it's good. It's a good from a writer's point of view to hear that, hear it rated in such a way and think, oh yeah, I need to adapt that. Or I can do better here. I can do better there. So podcasts, for me, it has also been a learning process in terms of the fluidity of sentences, in terms of putting words like suddenly in there, which are redundant. It doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? It's like, so there are other ways of dealing with creating that urgency in a story other than just throwing words there. And, again, in terms of, things are so basic, but like, he was terrified. And there's ways of explaining that without telling, you just sort of like little, he's sat at the table and his legs tapping frantic, all that kind of jazz. So I've learned that. And that's where I got to the stage where I think, yeah, I can go to the next level now. But that's just hard graft. That's just sitting down, writing the stories. You'll have failures. You'll have ones that don't work. But, there's no other way around it. You can't just sit down and write a great story after doing nothing. You've got to put the work in.
Definitely. So you've got to put reps in, like you mentioned earlier, having 120 short stories before even really diving into the novella world, which is kind of like that next step, when you're going for more of a broader story. You definitely have to get some reps in for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. And look, I feel like I'm getting there. It's that's 600,000 words. So I think you can't write 600,000 words without learning something along the way. Unless those words are murder, death, kill, just repeatedly in a sequence. But so I'm definitely getting there. And again, looking back on the work I did 3 years ago in the first stage, you can't help but cringe. Mm-hmm. It's just inevitable. And I'll probably in 3 years' time, I'll look back on what I'm putting out now and cringe as well. But that's the journey of it. And that's a good thing about it as well. You're always improving. There's no, I don't think you're ever going to get to a stage where you think, yeah, that's perfect. That's, I'll write things that I think, yeah, that's my best piece yet. And in 6 months, I'll look back on it and think, ooh, but that's just life. I guess that's the way it's going to be forever, I think. But if people are loving it, that's fine. If people still enjoy it, that's good. And I think that the more you are doing this lark as well, the more self-critical you are, without a doubt. So other people could be enjoying it, but you can look in your own stuff and think, oh, it's subpar.
Why did I use this?
You've got to bear in mind, as long as other people are enjoying it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It's like, why did I use this word here? Why didn't I explain this one moment more? It's like, at the end of the day, if people are enjoying it and they're connecting with it, like I know people are with your work, like it's a beautiful thing. But at the same time, it can be very, I'm the same way, I'll be like, oh, that podcast was pretty good. And then I'll look back a year later and go, really? That was my idea. That was what I went for. Why didn't I ask him this question? Or why didn't I ask her about this one thing? Like, you're always going to be your own worst critic,
back.
Right?
You can't get those moments back. It's like, once it's gone, once it's heard, that's it. And it's like the writing is like, once it's been published, that's it. Yeah. You got to wait for a year till people forget about it. Then you can revamp it and you can do it properly. But that's just the way it goes,
Yeah, for sure. That's again, kind of the blessing and the curse of being of being a creative, right?
Yeah, it is. You're never going to get it 100% first time. It's just impossible. But, I reckon even King would look back on some of his early work and, you can't do it. It's impossible.
Yeah.
That's all right. We just keep trying. As long as we're having fun, that's the main thing.
Absolutely. As long as you're having fun, like that's something I preach all the time. Like if you're having fun and you're enjoying what you're doing, you're already a success, right? That's the main thing. One thing I want to touch on with humor and the way that you write, that was something that right away really drew me to you and kind of separated you from a lot of other of the stories that were actually on the podcast at the time I was listening to, which of course was the Grey Rooms. Big shout out to the Grey Rooms crew. I absolutely love that podcast. The first of your work that I heard was actually oh my goodness, where is it here? I had it right here. Oh my gosh. Inner why can I not think of the word I'm trying to say here? Oh my goodness.
I don't know which one you're on about. I can't think either.
Intermediary buzz. Why can't I?
Interminable buzz.
Interminable buzz. That. Oh my goodness. Yeah. There we go. I'm leaving that in. That story for me, when it first starts up, and it's essentially this. I was like, is this literally a story about this woman who's drunk battling flies? And I'm like, this is amazing. And it's this really kind of fun. I mean, obviously, like there's a little bit of darkness going on there, but it's really funny. And like, I was like, man, this is great. And then the huge turn at the end, and then the darkness and the ending in that, that's something for me that just right away, I was like, who is this Mark Towse guy? Because this is, as much as I love all the stories that are featured on the Grey Rooms, it's like that really set it apart for me with that story.
Yeah, it's high tempo stuff. It's high tempo stuff. I mean, we've all been rushing around the kitchen chasing bloody flies around with a tea towel. I don't think anyone alive, doesn't matter how kind to animals they are, flies just do it for them. They just trigger. So it's just creating that humor and that what makes us all human into the story. But so that game was just an idea just that resonated from when the flies get behind the blinds and they're just dancing and bloody vibrating, and that's like feels like the noises in your head. So that was where that story originated from. But obviously, there had to be more to it than that.
Mm-hmm. For sure, everyone can relate to that, and right away I was just like, this is fantastic. But how, just out of curiosity, how did you get started with the Grey Rooms? Like, that's something I know there's going to be some people checking this out from the Grey Rooms Discord. So hi to those people. What's up, everybody in the What's Up Roomies? I'm just curious, how did you get linked up with the Grey Rooms?
Yeah, so they just put the submissions opportunities out, and I submitted. I submitted one. So I was in season. Oh, crikey! I think it was season. What season are we on now?
Coming up on season 4 now. So
I've never even listened to Grey Rooms before, but then I saw the submission open for season 2. So I listened to season 1, and I thought, this is intense. This is fun. And I've heard a No Sleep podcast before, and a couple of others were on the go also. So my first story I sent through was
I believe Disconnect. It was yes, I was about to say I believe it was Disconnect.
Yeah. And I wasn't too sure how that would go down actually. Because it's quite I was wondering how it would translate into a podcast scenario. But they did a really good job of it, to be honest with you. And I thought, I need more of this. So when it came to season 3, I just obliterated it with submissions, just because they did such a good job. And it, for me, sometimes it's not about, how well. It sounds horrible. How well someone pays. It's more about what they do with it. What they do in terms of artistic content with the work you put out there. And they do such an amazing job. And I thought, no, I need to have more than this. I think I submitted 8. I think I was over quota for season 3, but I was lucky enough. I think they took 4 or
6
5,
by my count, I think. Actually, no, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 5 by my count.
5, yeah.
4 that were like officially in the season. And then there was
that's right.
1 post-season, and then there was the Patreon exclusive, which I definitely want to get into in a minute here.
That's right. Yeah. So that was great. And it's just, there's nothing better. Look, you get, it does, like I said, highlight your flaws, but there's nothing better than hearing your story come to life in that way. It just, I don't know, it just adds that extra sort of dimension to the story. And I listen to the podcast when I'm out walking, and it's just great. And they do an amazing job. The voice actors, Jason does a fantastic job in production. The artwork is always amazing from Cassie. You got first class voice actors like Graham, and they're just an amazing team that do just such an amazing job. And I love working with them for that reason, which is why I jumped at the opportunity of Descent into Hell. I thought it would be a great show.
Oh, for sure. We're definitely going to get into that. But the one story I really wanted to bring up, because I think for me, it really it was the first time that I was listening to a podcast that I listen to it a lot when I'm at work. So I'm walking around doing stuff. And
yeah,
it was the first time that I really completely just was lost in a podcast where I had to stop what I was doing and really just experience it. And yes, of course, that was also to do with the fantastic production and sound design by Jason Wilson and JM's music, and then the voice actor.
The music is it. I forgot to mention the music. Yes. Chef, amazing stuff. Yeah, amazing stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. Like even just the which one was it? The Interminable Story with the sort of the country twangy kind of intro was just amazing. It just took me there straight away.
For sure, and that story for me there, it was actually Tear Me Down.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
That was, I don't know if it's because like I love the water so much and just the way that you built that world from the second the story started, that you built the character and the sense of urgency. And just like, it's almost like at first I was like, well, where's this going? But I was so immersed in the world that I almost forgot that like, oh yeah, this is like a horror. Like, it's like, I felt like I was there, and I credit that a lot to how you built up that world with, him smelling the sea air and hearing the waves, and he could still hear what was going on the other side of the glass. And, I think that for me was one that just, it really, like I said, I literally had to stop what I was doing because I just was so immersed in this world that you had built.
Yeah, look, I think we've all looked at pictures as a kid and like transported ourselves into that scene. Yes. I think we have, some glorious, whether it be like in the seaside next to a sweet shop or like in the countryside somewhere or whatever. We've all done that. And I thought, I don't think it's a new trope. I don't think it's a brand new trope, but I just wanted to try and do something a bit different with it. But that was great. The thought of, becoming like a prison for him and watching, now he's the sort of the audience watching life go by, like for the foreseeable future. It's like I say, it's just playing with things and playing with people. But again, that sense of smell was important to that story as well. And
it was almost a moment there where like I swear I could smell like the sea, and I was just like, wait, what is happening right now? Like it's this full envelopment of just, I had to stop and sit down because it was just, and it kind of snuck up on me where I was just like, I can literally see this world in front of me that he has built. And it was just a very, very intense experience. I think that's a wonderful lesson in world building for sure. But with character building, there's one more story I wanted to make sure I mentioned because I do want to talk about Descent into Hell. Yeah. Convenient shopping.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Might be
it was a fun one to write.
Yeah. That might be one of my favorite podcast audio dramas ever, just because of the character, the protagonist of that story, because I know someone just like him.
Oh yeah.
And
but that's the thing. It's taking these characters and, like I say, just putting them through the ringer, like getting them from A to B and just watching what happens, because we all know people like that. If something doesn't go their way, it's instant defensive. Oh, I'm spoiled. This is unacceptable. It's not what I
need to call someone.
I don't pay my rates for this. So, and it's like, these are the kind of characters that I really enjoy messing with. Yeah. And I think one of my favorite lines I've ever written actually was on that. And it's something about, there's a giant in my kitchen and an eyeball on my floor. Great lyrics, but this, I don't know. I just love just throwing shit like that in there. Honestly, I just love it. And I do, some of the things I write, it's not from an ego point of view. I just sort of find myself laughing afterwards, and I hope that the reader, laughs about that too. But yeah, I do like writing those cheeky little stories. I do. I have a lot of fun with those. For sure.
And you can, and it really comes off like I was listening at this point, like I was familiar with your work. So when I saw that, you had featured in the double feature there, I was like, okay, like, and the first story of that, the double feature Chop Shop, big shout outs to Tori who wrote that story. It's fantastic too, but it was a kind of a very heavy story. So then kind of having almost the the other side of it where it's like cheeky and kind of fun and like,
I was worried how it was going to work actually after that. I was worried if it was going to sort of be a bit flat because of coming after that one, but I think it works. I think it works.
Oh, for sure.
You've had the darkness, then you get the light, sort of. Yeah, absolutely.
And the ending of that story is just fantastic. Yeah. I love it so much. Just this is unacceptable. I got my tarp in the van.
Yeah, it's great. It's very British. I mean, but people like that as well. But it's a very British attitude. This is unacceptable. I know a lot of people. I mean, I live in Australia now, but I know a lot of people like that. That if things didn't go their way, it would ruin their whole day. It would just they would just have that dark cloud over them. And but they're the kind of people like you really want to mess with, you really want to get in there and like, you think you're having a bad time, just bloody wait,
Yeah, you think it's bad now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, Towse is going to bring something else. Yeah, put something else on the table for you. No, I do love that kind of stuff. I do. And I've really started writing a lot more horror comedy stuff because I found that I've really sort of naturally drawn to that, and which is why I wrote Nana. And One Last Shindig, which is a sequel to that. And then, the Generation games. I've just recently I've been, because it's kind of refreshing as well, because horror can get quite heavy. Mm-hmm. But if you incorporate that with comedy, then it just keeps things a little bit lighter for you as well. But yeah, I love cheeky stories like that. I really do.
That's fantastic. Well, and the one last thing about the Grahams I wanted to make sure I touched on. I really, really loved Descent into Hell, which was a Patreon exclusive for the Grey Rooms. It was actually one of the reasons I signed up for the Grey Rooms Patreon, because I knew, okay, it's a 5-part series, all done by Mark. I'm like, this is going to be, this is going to be next level. Was that an idea you had and then you submitted it, or did they come to you about doing something, or was it just kind of like a happy accident that series all came together?
No, they came to me and sort of, suggested, as an option, and I mulled it over. I wasn't too sure at first, just purely because the Grey Rooms is a hard one to follow. I mean, Michael Zenker is a great writer, and from that point of view, it was going to be. I knew it was going to be challenging to keep listener interest over five episodes. Mm-hmm. I've never done anything like that before. I've written novellas, but that's very different, because you have the investment already, but you've got to keep listeners coming back. So it was a challenge for me. But again, it was all about the characters. I think I knew I had to focus on the characters. And again, it was challenging because I know I did have the ending in mind, and I knew it wasn't going to be the happy ending that most people would probably looking for. And I always worry about how well that's going to be received. But look, it was a bit of a gamble, to be honest with you. Some of the episodes, I hope they pay off. Because I did lose myself in them, and I didn't want to create something sort of very linear. I wanted to do something that sort of bounced around a little bit, but had that thread going along with it as well. So I wanted to create 5 very different stories. You know what I mean? I just wanted to create 5 different stories, but ultimately had that sort of that payoff in the end, really. For sure.
It's like that. There's an overall narrative of it's this guy building up this master plan, to move on, but it's also, it's the middle management type, like this guy's stuck where he is. And it's such a relatable concept. And, I think that you hit the nail on the head as far as having these 5 different stories and all these characters that, like all the kids involved, like you immediately, it's almost like the stakes are raised a little bit because you immediately feel for these kids. Like I immediately, for myself personally, I was like, I wanted to see a certain thing happen. Yeah. And in the end, it kind of goes almost, especially with being the Grey Rooms. It's like, I don't want to spoil anything because I want people to go and check it out, but let's just say I was very surprised with how it ended, but I was kind of like, okay, that's cool. Like I was a fan of how it all came together.
Well, that's a good thing about the grey rooms. You don't have to work to limitations, so to speak. So it was freedom. It was freedom for me to do that. And it is a very dark story. It is quite bleak. Yeah.
There's definitely some dark moments.
But yeah. But again, it was fun to write. Yeah, I mean, I think that's, again, because it was my first, I think over time, there are certain tricks and elements that I would incorporate differently. But, I think as a standalone 5-part series, I think it works pretty well. I mean, hopefully it does anyway. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I can say for myself that, I really enjoyed it. And it was like when I initially reached out to you, I think that was the first thing I said, was just how much I enjoyed Descent into Hell, because I was so pleasantly surprised with how much I was attached to these characters and how much I just overall enjoyed, and how much there was a couple moments where I couldn't help but chuckle. And I was kind of like, oh, like, does this, does this make me a bad person? It's like, no.
That's what I love to do. That's what I love about it, though. I love it. I'm thinking to myself when I'm writing these things that someone's going to laugh at them and think they're a bad person for doing so. They're going to have to go get a shower and say 5 Hail Marys after reading this. But I love that, and because you can't do it. You can't just throw that at someone. You got to do it very subtly. You can't just for the shock factor. But if you can sort of incorporate a bit of cheek in there and a bit of intelligence in the way you write it, and then it's then you'll find people will think, oh, I feel pretty bad, but I feel pretty bad for laughing at this, But I love that. I love that, because we're all the same, and we can put all these airs and graces, but at the end of the day, we just want to laugh, and we just want to enjoy life. So yeah,
for sure, that's it. And obviously, we've already mentioned a couple of times during this episode here about your novellas. So I want to dive into that. When did you kind of stop and go, okay, let's start working on a novella? Was there a certain point where you just went, I have this idea for a story, let's get it out? Or was it like like you knew a couple months out, okay, starting on this day, I want to start working on them?
No, it was out of the blue. I just thought, right, because I said to myself, I'm going to write 120 short stories, and I did. Then I thought, all right, so I've done that. Now what do I do? And I knew that I had to come out of the comfort zone. Otherwise, I'd just keep writing short stories forever. And I thought short stories would be a good way to build up the profile.
For sure.
And to some extent it has. But I think from the point of view of longer fiction, that's generally where you get more traction. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was at a point where I looked back on some of my older stories and thought, right, out of those, which ones could we sort of funk up and make into a really, really long piece? What's got the staying power? And yeah, so it was The Paperboy, which was an initial short story that I wrote, and I thought, yeah, this has got legs. I could have a lot of fun with this one. And yeah, that was the most fun I've had writing, actually, just building these insane old people characters and just giving them all sorts of idiosyncrasies and traits, and just trying to freak the reader out, just bringing them into this world of bloody, flat soda and soggy cookies and stuff. And just it was great because it was sort of a nostalgic kind of trip for a lot of people. But just on steroids kind of thing. I just wanted to sort of take it up a notch, so to speak. But Nana is a great place to start if you want to read a bit of Taosie. It's fun, it's tongue in cheek, a bit of body horror in there. So don't go in there if you're a little bit sort of faint of heart when it comes to that kind of stuff, because it is quite gruesome in parts. Not to the extent of sort of splatterpunk and that kind of stuff, but it does sort of like sort of like hover on the line, so to speak. But it's great fun. I loved having fun. And I was actually really sad when I had to leave those guys. And that's a sign that you've written something, worthy. When you're actually sad to leave that world behind. And I am quite a lot of the time, because quite often for me, these little worlds that I create are much more interesting than reality. Like, doing the washing up or, being sent out with a dog. So, for me, I just know, like what I was saying before, that I'm just addicted to it. And, building these worlds is something that I'll be doing until my dying breath. Yeah.
Definitely. And there's a lot of, you can have so much fun just building this world. And, you know, obviously, like I had mentioned, unfortunately, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Nana yet, but
yeah,
I've heard so many people compliment these characters and the story, and how there's a lot of really funny moments, like you can't help but chuckle at what's taking place. But then also, you know, I've seen a couple people mention cherry pie, and I'm not going to ask, but I can only just begin to imagine what they could possibly be talking about. But I wanted to ask, with Nana, was there somewhere specifically that story came from? Like, obviously you had mentioned, like, everyone can kind of relate to, you know, the soggy cookies and the going to visit your grandparents and they're making.
I think it's just the divide between young and old, TJ. You know, it's that disconnect, and you can't really, beyond the superficiality, you can't really connect with them as a character, as a person. Although we are all just kids in like varying age of skin. But it actually started, that initial idea was from an interaction my son had on his first paper round, which I helped him do his first paper round on, with an old person that came out to talk to us, I think just because of sheer boredom or just curiosity. And it was just that standoff between my son and this old man, you know, hardly a hair on his head, and apart from his eyebrows, which were just sort of like almost meeting in the middle. And it was just crazy to see this. And it was just, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we all have the same thoughts, and it was just it was bizarre just watching them, and it was really awkward, and it was quite tense. And, you know, the old man was trying to be friendly, and my son was sort of like, you could see he was sort of squirming on the spot, and he was, you know, he was cheeks were flushing. He didn't know what to do, and he looked at me like for help, like as if this alien was going to basically just, like, you know, extend another head and sort of grab him or something. But I think we can all relate to that. I think we can all relate to that. Is that we see these old people and we don't really associate them as a person. You know, they're sort of has-beens in our mind, so to speak. But so whenever I see an old person, I always try and make an effort of saying, you know, how's your day? How are you? But I think it's quite sad. I think it's, so, you know, although it's a fun story, there are quite a few sad elements in it in terms of reflecting on behavior, reflecting on, you know, they're just kids in old people's skin. So it's got some sort of quite poignant messages there, but it is a riot as well. Yeah.
Sure. That's fantastic. Well, I mean, it's the next story that I read in paperback, I'm hoping is going to be Nana. So cool. I'm very excited.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, TJ. Yeah, for sure. We can maybe share some cherry pie and a dollop of ice cream afterwards if you're up for it.
Okay. We'll see. I've heard it's been built up. I've heard about this cherry pie or whatever. And I'm like, what is this? So,
have you ever tried cherry pie in real life?
Yes, actually.
Oh, beautiful, isn't it? Absolutely stunning. It's my favorite pie, which is why I incorporated it into the story. But it still is my favorite pie. Yeah.
Because I think there was I can't recall the name of the podcast I was kind of listening to, and she had mentioned how, like, she's like, I'm never going to eat cherry pie again. And I was like, okay, this is going to be intense. But yeah, no, it'll take a lot to stop me from enjoying it.
I remember that moment in the story. Actually, it is quite a good one. It's like, it's a point where you just can't take time back, and you can't unsee what you've seen. So, but yeah, if you read it, you'll know what I mean. But yeah, I still love my cherry pie.
Oh, nothing better.
Absolutely.
And then now, of course, with Hope Wharf, that's a very different story. But, you know, again, from what I have seen people talk about, when I've heard you talk about this really wonderful world that you built, that's basically like almost like a fantasy adventure for kids. But
yeah.
Also, there's kind of other stuff going on. Yeah. Did that story come from anywhere specific, or?
It kind of stemmed from my hometown. Say my hometown, where I live now, which is Clifton Springs in Victoria, Australia. And it's a very sleepy sort of seaside town where we get tourists.
Sure.
We get our off peak where it's really quiet and nice, and we get our on peak where it's like it's full on, it's really busy. So I just wanted to create a situation whereby, you know, what if the locals could never leave? You know, how can I incorporate that into a story? And what if these tourists that came and abused the privilege of staying in this beautiful place? What if they had karma in some way? So it is quite it's a small town sort of claustrophobic kind of coming of age story. And it's a small town, but with a lot of big secrets. And I just love the idea of two kids, middle of the night, getting out their pajamas, getting their backpacks, shoving their chips in there and chocolate, and going on to put pay to this what they believe is a myth that locals can't leave town and just see what happens to them. Yeah,
that's fantastic. It's another.
It's weird. Look, it's weird. It's one of those. Like Nana is one that gets all the love, and it's the most popular out the two to date. But Hope Wharf is, from the readers that have read it, they've said it's on a different level, which is really great to hear. But yeah, it's one of those things where trying to get people to read your books. I didn't realize it was going to be this hard, but it's rewarding when you do get someone that reads it and thinks, oh yeah, that was a great story. So this is what I would say is a hidden gem. It's more serious, but there is humor in there. There is a lot of character development between the two kids, and there's a lot of the as you'd expect, the sort of the adolescent kind of humor coming through. But again, that's one of the stories I hold, in sort of myself in high regard for. That I really it took a long time to do that one as well. It had a few rewrites until I got it right. But yeah, I mean, the Hope Wharf, I definitely love, more people to read that, because I think that, it's a very rewarding story. I know I'm going to say that as an author, but I know
what you're saying though. Yeah. It's almost like it's different. It's great and everything, but it's like, it almost seems like there's a little bit more of a world here. There's a little bit more meat on the bone, so to speak.
There's more mystery. Yeah, definitely. It's just sort of, you've got the mist, you've got you've got the candy shop, you've got the best candy in town. Just go for a stay in Hope Wharf and just let me know how you get on. It's a beautiful place, but just be nice to the locals. That's all I'll say.
Be nice to the locals. You'll be all right.
Tip well, you'll be all right.
For sure. Well, obviously, as we're getting ready to wind down here, I want to ask about kind of what you've got coming up. What's next for Taosie, as you're kind of, now have your two novellas. Obviously, I already know that you're going to be involved in lots more podcasts, and obviously the Grey Rooms, and then I'm sure you will be making an appearance again on the Grey Rooms. But what are you working on right now? What's you got going on?
Yeah. So look, this is why I was talking about having a break this weekend, because it has been really busy. I mean, I've got Crows coming out from D&T Publishing next month, which is a crazy novella. It's the craziest story I've written to date. And I'm not going to say too much about it, because even the blurb on the back, I've left that quite vague.
Okay. Just
because I want people to go on that venture in the deep woods and find out for themselves what it's all about. So that's called Crows, coming out from D&T Publishing. That's the cover reveal of that is coming real soon, which I'm excited about, because Don Noble, I love his work. He's done all my covers so far. He's just a genius when it comes down to covers. So after that, in April, we've got One Last Shindig, which is, again, in the vein of Nana. It's old folk comedy, and it's funnier. It's even funnier than Nana. I'm really excited to see what people think of that, because it's a riot. It's an old folk bus tour into hell, and it's just magical. I honestly can't wait for people to. There's so many great characters on there. It's an absolute riot. We've also got Nature's Perfume from Journal Stone coming out in March next year as well, which is, I mean, that's not a, whereas One Last Shindig is quite a new trope, this one is quite a different trope, but I always try and do things differently. I always try and bring something unique to it, but it's basically a sort of jungle kind of survival story. Okay. But it's got some cool elements in there that I don't think we've seen before. So hopefully that will go across really well. And that'll be it until 2023. And I've got a short story collection called "There's Something Wrong with Auntie Beth," which again is basically a collection of the best work I've done. A lot of stuff hasn't been published, so this is, in 3 years I've been writing short stories. It's just the the cream of the crop, so to speak. We've got the Generation Games, which is an actual. I wrote this before Squid Games came out, but it's sort of like Squid Games for the elderly.
Oh, okay.
And that is, again, just a comedy, brutal fun. I absolutely loved writing that as well. So that was like a trilogy. So I wanted to write a bit of a trilogy of old folk horror because I think it's something that hasn't been explored a great deal. But again, yeah, so much fun with that one. And there's a couple of others as well coming out next year. In 2023. But that's it. I've basically filled my quota. So I'm going to go back to shorts. I'll be just hammering short stories out now. I'm going to have a break this week and then go back to short stories. I'm going to write some more stuff for the Grey Rooms, hopefully. I've got Eric's Tune, which is my episode coming out in the Grey Rooms. I can't remember if that's episode 4 or 5, but that's a good story. I think you'll like that one. That's set in a prison. I think that'll go down pretty well. A couple of bits and pieces on the No Sleep podcast coming up, and yeah, so it's all good, Yeah, it's good fun.
All over the place with lots of different stuff.
Yeah, there's a couple of good anthologies, 80s anthologies, if you like 80s stuff. So there's 1986 mixtape coming from the Dread Machine. There's Generation X coming from AM Inc. But I like anthologies. I do love a good anthology.
Oh, for sure. That's something that, that's what has kind of got me more into horror, to be honest with you, like the type of like horror anthology type of these podcasts that's kind of what I've sunk my teeth into. And now it's almost like, now I want to get into reading and, it's interesting for sure.
Yeah. I think novellas are a good place to focus at the moment because from what the people I've spoken to, getting through a novel, with all the distractions that life throws at you is quite tough these days. It is. And a novel has got to be outstanding for me to get through. I was reading Stephen King when I was 11 years old. The first book I read was Cujo. But I picked up one of his recent ones, and no, like a kid, it's just my problem, my time. I tried to get through the Institute, and I got halfway through that one. I couldn't finish it, but that's just me. It's time for a lot of people is really hard because we're always plugged in 24/7. Where I think novella is a one sitting read, and I just love that length of story. So if you can successfully get the character depth correct and throw a great story in there, then you're onto a winner, I think.
Oh, for sure. I absolutely agree. And it's something that, I'm looking forward to being able to visit with Nana and, taking a trip to Hope Wharf. And, it's something that I'm excited about, and I'm excited to continue to see your work. And, thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with me today, Marcus. It's been
pleasure, TJ.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Now, where can the good people find you if they want to check out your work?
Yeah, so I'm on Insta as Taosie Writes, Towsey Writes. Twitter is Mark Towse 12. I'm on Facebook as well. All of my stuff is on like Amazon, Goodreads, that kind of stuff. Loads of stuff on podcasts and stuff. But yeah, I'm pretty much everywhere.
If I can give you guys a hint, if you literally go on Spotify or whatever podcast app you enjoy and you just type in Mark Towse, you're going to find a bunch of stuff.
It's getting there. It's definitely getting there. Yeah, definitely getting there. But look, like I said, I'm going to go back to shorts for a while now and just hammer out. I do love shorts because you can write one in about 2 weeks. Whereas novella is taking a good month out of your time. A lot of the novellas I wrote was during lockdown, just because I had that big chunk of time and I could lose myself in those worlds. Yeah, but now lockdown's finished. I do struggle a little bit because I'm not one of these people that can just dip in an hour and dip out. I just like to completely absorb myself. So I think that's why I'm going back to shorts for a while, just for the sanity of it, really.
You can sit down and knock something out as opposed to having to spend, if you have to come back, if you have to leave and come back to it, I could definitely see how that would kind of ruin the creative juices.
I don't like leaving. I don't like leaving them. I love these places that I create. They're scary and you're freaky, but I love these places. I love world building. I do. It's just like I say, it's an addiction now. Whenever I'm not in one of those worlds, I want to go back in one of those worlds. But
for sure, it's like you get back to reality. It's like, man, this is not. These characters suck sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like I'm driving around doing the day job. I work as an advertising sales manager, and I'm thinking, it's like, there's so many places I'd rather be. Yeah.
I would much rather be enjoying some cherry pie at Hope Wharf. Come on, what's happening?
Tell me about it. Absolutely. Yeah, that's the way. That's the way. That's where we want to be. Absolutely. I'm living it up with the old folks. Yeah. Right.
For sure. Awesome. Well, Mark, thank you so much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome. No, it's great. I enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. All right, guys, there you have it. My chat with Mark Towse, horror fiction writer. That was so much fun. Mark was such a fantastic guest, and I cannot recommend his stuff more. So go check him out. I'll have some links down below in the description. If you are into horror of any kind, you're going to love his stuff. I guarantee it. He is so great at building a world and building characters, making you care about the characters, and then just throwing a wrench into things just when you think you know what's going to happen, and his endings are always fantastic. And like he mentioned, the fact that he doesn't even really know how it's going to end most times when he starts, that's so cool to me as someone who likes to write as strictly as a hobby on Reddit and stuff like that. It really, that was so much fun for me, and I feel like I actually learned a thing or two from listening to Mark talk about his process. So thank you so very much, Mark, again, for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure. And I appreciate you guys checking this episode out. If you are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Check out all past 309 episodes of The Hodder Show. I have a lot of great content with some fantastic creators, musicians, music reviews, local businesses, everyday people. Lots of great content in the back files of The Hodder Show in the archive. So go check that out. Share this with your friends if you enjoyed it. And most importantly, support Mark because he deserves it. And you deserve a patented Hodder Show audio fist bump. Boom. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Hope that you have hit that subscribe button, leave a like, share this with your friends, and hit that rate button if you are able to. Rates and reviews really help this podcast grow, so I very much appreciate it. And with that said, I'm going to sign off here today. I hope that you guys have a fantastic rest of your week, and I will catch you next time on The Hodder Show. Take it easy, guys.